am 85 years old. I am working with Adobe Photoshop V2. I want to learn digital painting properly. Most of the Chinese artists are best in the field. But our government police could not transfer money to Chinese countries for purchase tutorials. One of my best friend to help me to do that. At last I got a good lecturer, level prima art director at Polar Engine Studio, in Indonesia. So learn for my old age. So I upload via UDEMY for all digital world use with the Photoshop. I purchased MAC model 7100 AV. Bald-in monitor audio and video and also camera capture. My son wedding held at 1997. I designed the invitation with that. At that time, Start Studio Pro 3D. Software for making 3D letters. 40 years before, my first digital paintings was done at that time. Reference research. Researching and collecting references for your character, theme, and the overall mood is the first and perhaps the most critical part of the illustration process. You must familiarize yourself with the character and the mood in order to make the best decisions in making the artwork. I'd like to also research popular entertainment and classical art to become an expert on the combination of themes that form the basis of the artwork. Look for something fresh that suits your personal taste and perspective. Here is my reference sheet. There are several types of reference images that I collected. The first group here is the real photographs of me posing as the character. You can try a bunch of different lighting and angles as well. The second group is using the body chant and 3D model. It really helps with difficult pose and lighting. The third group is the mood references. I put together some paintings and photographs that have the warm magical tone that I want to achieve. The last one is the design inspiration. It's basically some pictures that I love and what I think is really cool to kickstart my painting excitedly. Workspace and Tool Settings Class 3. Workspace and Tool Settings. I try to keep the workspace as simple as possible. As we can see here, this is the toolbar, layers, and brush presets. I don't use any color palette or build a certain color swatches. My favorite brushes are displayed here on the first row. This is a soft rendering brush and a hard rendering brush, both without texture. Then there's a soft airbrush. The next one is a textured custom brush to create a painterly effect. This is a hard square brush and a gradient brush. This is a handy brush when I want to shape a form quickly. Next is the soft square brush and a more textured square brush, both for rendering as well. There are also these brushes for sketching. Well, I think that's pretty much it. The rest are just brushes that I rarely use and other special effects brushes. Okay, let's go to the next part. The sketch is always an important part of my painting process. I like to have a good basis to start working on. For starters, I'd like to start with a very light, loose, and sketchy marks. Usually I'll start with the head, but not always. If I'm in the mood to identify the torso first, I'll do that. Then find the gesture of the neck and the action line to the foot. I'm going to set up some gestures that might work for the scene and the mood I'm going for. Gesture can be referred as the movement between things. It's not the contour, or the form, or the tone. It's the movement that connects the contours, the forms, and the tones. A gesture drawing is basically a quick drawing that captures the essential gesture of a subject in its most distilled form. Gesture is everywhere, embodied in every object, person, and place. It is action, emotion, movement, and expression all rolled together into one cohesive motion. We use our whole body, not just words, to communicate ideas and emotions. This is what the gesture should capture. This can be told through just a few lines, which the viewer will recognize as the body, and can identify the emotions that the person is feeling, just like we can intuitively identify emotions of the people around us. It might be simple to understand, but difficult to put into practice when you're actually drawing a human figure. We're so tempted to draw the details of the anatomy and all the little bumps of the contour because we think that detail will make our drawing look better. But the reality is, the detail is nothing without the gesture. A better approach would be to practice finding the gesture of the figure so many times that it becomes second nature. Quick sketch is a common exercise in art school that involves drawing the model from life within a few minutes. Doing this exercise will train you to see the gesture immediately. You can feel it, and you will be able to design the details to complement the gesture instead of copying details randomly. Sometimes it's a good idea to exaggerate the pose to tell a better story. While posing the character, I'd like to look for angles and orientations that emphasize the most iconic and compelling shapes. Personality and acting should also be considered when defining the pose. The way that characters hold themselves while idle or in action conveys much about who they are. Alright, that's the first gesture. Now I want to make a new one. I'm referencing my own photographs, but I think I don't really like the legs. Let's try to make the third gesture. As usual, I will start with the head. Well, I think I kinda like this one. The gesture looks fluid, but I will try to draw another sketch from a different angle. The fourth gesture has a pretty good flow, but let's see which one we will decide. Rough thumbnails. Once I got several gestures that I like, I begin to find the best combination by roughly making the sketch and add blocking in the main shapes. A thumbnail sketch is a small, quick compositional and story mock-up of your proposed illustration. It is a tool to explore multiple ideas quickly and narrow down on the best direction for the artwork. I don't bother much with the details here, as it's only to capture the best and memorable composition to present to the client later, so that the thumbnails don't take a long time to create. In this stage, our task is to create a character-focused composition with a clear narrative. We should be dynamic in our choice of composition to best tell the story and provide the best readability for the thumbnails. Considering the image as a keyframe shot from a movie starring the character is a very useful metaphor to help design compositions. Frame the scene to emphasize the story. I like to also explore various camera angle and focal length. I'd like to stay small and loose in this stage. Each image should be quick, focused on the clarity of the idea and the abstract compositions as opposed to a finished drawing. It is highly recommended to work in grayscale at this part of the process. There are several types of compositions. The one I use here is centered and almost symmetrical composition. This is the easiest way to make your composition look balanced. Do not forget to apply the rule of thirds of the focal point. I will try to put the third gesture in this composition. And for the second rough thumbnail, I will put the fourth gesture. I'm trying to rotate the figure to make the composition look more balanced. Well, you don't need to be perfect. Everything can be loose and sketchy. I'm trying to give a very simple value of the characters and the background.